Welcome back. The chemical dumping at Sungai Kim Kim has left the government footing the bill for the 6.4 million ringgit cleanup cost. There's also the long-term healthcare cost of treating the residents affected. The government is already looking into amending laws to make the culprits of this mess pay for it. However, what if the cost of cleanup is beyond the means of the culprit? And what happens then? And what if there are future environmental pollution incidents, perhaps bigger than Sungai Kim Kim? We met with the CEOs of two insurance companies in Malaysia to talk about what role environmental liability insurance can play in Malaysia. Environmental liability insurance is a form of liability insurance which protects a company from damages for accidental damage or pollution that it has caused. It is known by various names. For example, AIG Malaysia sells pollution legal liability insurance and contractors pollution liability insurance. Overall, it's designed to help pay for the cleanup and financially compensate the victims. However, these types of insurance are not very popular in Malaysia yet for many reasons. The two CEOs we met shared with us their disappointment on the lax environmental laws in Malaysia and how it doesn't make environmental liability insurance mandatory to help prevent pollution.
Where environmental insurance can come is when there is a very strong frame of rules, procedure and risk management that will limit the risk to what is the most accidental and unexpected event. So then there is a cover. But putting some chemical in a river on purpose, it's much more difficult to insure.
The Malaysian laws were drafted in 1974, right? So there are some laws, but they are fairly out of date. So if you take Europe, Europe came up with a real change in 2012, huge new laws, and they treat the environment like, say, like a third party. So if something happens to it, whoever is accountable both for turning it back to its pre-state, pre-pollution state, and also the time during which you can't use it, there's also a cost to that, and companies have to pay that.
I've been around the region. When you talk about liability insurance, people are looking at you. What do you mean? What are you talking about? The point is, liability insurance is helping those who need to be helped in case they do a mistake toward a third party. But having to buy an insurance policy with a few constraints will improve the quality of what they are doing, and there will be probably more quality control. There will be probably more looking at process, so things could be much better, meaning that the likelihood of an event will reduce significantly.
According to Anthony, AIG has 25 companies in Malaysia that have bought environmental insurance, most of which are oil and gas companies that have dealings with American companies.
When I see some Malaysian company who have to interact with a European American company, the first question they ask when they go for a tender is, what's your limit of your liability insurance? It's just the fact that by having one, there is already a certain level of comfort, and if there are none, it looks like an irresponsible position. And then you don't contract with these people.
Environmental insurance can also cover other industries like hospitals, hotels, and even landscaping companies. Anthony says the annual premium could be as low as 1,000 ringgit a year.
A contractor is putting in some landscaping, and they bring some earth, they do that work, and then later they discover that in that earth was asbestos material, which they weren't aware of at the time. So that's something we would also come in there. The policy would trigger, and money would be paid to do that cleanup. And the key is cleanup, because cleanup actually takes quite a considerable amount of time.
He adds that more and more countries around the world are now making environmental liability insurance mandatory.
Korea now is mandatory for companies to buy. So it's now the fourth largest market in the world for environmental insurance. China apparently had new laws in 2017, and I think they're going to do it as well. And I was told Vietnam also seriously considering making it compulsory.
When environmental insurance is made mandatory, companies would have to deal with the safety requirements set by insurance companies to reduce risk of pollution. They would also need to have a panel of experts ready to clean up in the case of pollution-related incidents. With stronger regulations, companies can be made to explain how they will finance the cleanup of an accidental pollution. However, there is a catch, as the insurance won't cover intentional pollution.
Let's say the company knew about it and everyone at the top authorized it and go and do this illegal thing. Obviously, it won't be covered in that circumstance.
Anthony says that penalties for polluting the environment should be heavier so that companies that do pollute intentionally are made to pay.
If you care about the environment, and the long-term costs are much higher than just a cleanup, right? So I think it's we as Malaysians, need to be much more careful and have some responsibility for our country. I think this shows that the enforcement is unfortunately too poor, because I think we've never assumed that people are doing this, but now it looks like everyone is too easy to do and get away with it. So that's what needs to change.
Environmental liability insurance does have a bigger role to play in Malaysia in protecting the victims of accidental pollution, but only if we raise our standards in preventing pollution.